Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And as we start this wonderful new week on Monday, I hope everyone is safe and sound after the storm last night. It hit here. It was pretty gusty, let's just say. I can see from where I am that there's a couple of fences have gone down, so thankfully not mine. So I do hope everyone is well. But yesterday sort of afternoon and early evening, I did 3 flash videos on 3 completely different subjects. Things that came up that definitely need to be looked at. And so we put them up as kind of a heads up, as kind of trailer. And my first 3 videos today will be the long forms of those where we go in and kind of have a look in a little bit more detail. Some of them are stunning. And on top of that, of course, there's other stories which I didn't sort of light on yesterday, which definitely also need to be looked at. One of them is quite astonishing. But we will look at that as well. So do please hit that subscribe button if you are yet to do so. Join us on the journey. It's a whole new week. It's a whole new ball game, and we will continue to push out the truth so that everybody knows exactly the sort of people running Scotland. But this first one, of course, is all about Nicola Sturgeon and her cynical attempt to weaponise COVID to push for independence, which is why everything she did was different from England, not because it was better, because it was better for her. Here goes. Nicola Sturgeon wanted to use the COVID pandemic to reboot Scotland's Skexit campaign, this bombshell evidence now reveals. And you wouldn't put it past her, because you know that in her mind everything had to be different, everything had to be Nicola's way. Whatever England are doing, we'll do it differently to show that we are an independent nation. And even if people die, well, that's apparently the price she was willing to pay. And we're not even talking about the people in the care homes whom the police are now investigating for corporate homicide. We're talking normal, everyday kind of illness people, you know, because of the changes she made that were different, that were basically the wrong decision. And it's been shown statistically that more people died in Scotland, per capita than in England. And it is considered simply to be the policies that were enacted in different ways and at different times. So senior Scottish government officials considered using the crisis to restart its campaign for a second independence referendum. And that was on the same day the former FM angrily denied she was playing politics. But of course, it's like anything with that poisonous, horrible woman. Everything is a lie. You can believe nothing. She opens that nasty gash at the front of her mouth and outpour the toxic lies all the time. She will look you in the face and lie, and you know she's lying. She knows she's lying. She knows you know she's lying. And still she lies. Nicola Sturgeon's Scottish government wanted to use the COVID crisis to reboot its push to break up the United Kingdom. Bombshell new documents have revealed this. With restrictions in place and hundreds of Scots already having died from the virus, the paper revealed Sturgeon's top team looking to push a restart for the second independence referendum, which is why they came to this marvellous conclusion, of course, that if the elderly can die in higher numbers, and they are the ones more likely to be unionist-minded, then that would only benefit her cause. Also the fact that older people tend to be more votey. You know, as you get older, you tend to vote more than younger people. And if you have the majority voters in that older age group, and the older age group tends to be unionist, it only makes sense to Nicola Sturgeon if she can somehow eradicate that older vote. And what better than a nice, convenient disease that can be quite easily and simply introduced to nursing homes up and down the country, thus eliminating through natural means the opposition. And by natural means, of course, we mean corporate homicide. Ironically, this whole plan was discussed on the same day Miss Sturgeon spikily insisted she was only focused on dealing with the pandemic. And you get the comments, and I see the comments in the section there, where you get these mad SNP supporters insisting that Nicola cares for people. Nicola was focused on helping Scotland. Nicola was giving herself up and making sure that the people of Scotland were looked after. And we know that that is a lie. And what's very sad is that these SNP mad people who support them actually do believe that she cares. Well, let me tell you, people, she's quite incapable of caring. The woman is barely human. She is a sociopath. She does not care about anything other than her own aggrandizement, power, position, authority, and wealth. Scottish Tory MSP Murdo Fraser said it is hard to imagine Nicola Sturgeon's star falling any lower than this. He said, but we are still in the early stages of this inquiry. People were dying, the NHS was on the verge of collapse, care homes were on their knees, and this is what the SNP were more concerned about. Because that's all they are. They obsess about that and nothing else. And if people die, they literally do not care. In fact, for some people dying, it is a bonus to them. The more, the better. They are destruction. They are the willful living embodiment of evil, destructive force. Where they tread, they leave nothing but death, dust, and destruction. And there is no worse, more evil force in Scottish politics than the SNP, headed by that psychopathic dwarf, Nicola Sturgeon. It comes after it also emerged the UK COVID inquiry had not been handed informal messages relating to the pandemic from Ms Sturgeon and senior civil servants. Ms Sturgeon insists she did present the information, but concedes it did not exist on her devices because she deleted them, even though we know she shouldn't have, and I've dealt with that in a past video. The Scottish Government minutes from June 2020 were referred to by Jamie Dawson KC in an exchange with former civil servant Ken Thompson during the inquiry, which is currently sitting in Scotland. It's in Edinburgh at the moment. He said, it says the Cabinet agreed that consideration should be given to restarting work on independence and a referendum, with the arguments reflecting the experience of the coronavirus crisis and developments on EU exit. So rather than dealing with an emergency situation where people were dying, where the economy was collapsing, where the NHS couldn't cope, all these problems, and first and foremost in the minds of this cabal was independence and divorce from the United Kingdom. They did not care about the people. The people were fodder in this battle. The discussion took place at the time Scots faced stringent restrictions on their liberties, although the rules had been eased slightly. That day, Ms Sturgeon reacted angrily to a question about the politics behind her reluctance to ease restrictions compared with Boris Johnson. She was kept on saying, follow the science, follow the science. The people who were doing the science kept telling her the masks were useless. They did not provide any protection to the virus. But hey, she knew best, and she knew that if by doing this, she could build in compliance from the population. She needed a compliant population. And if you can get them to be compliant on a little thing, you can increase that. They're compliant on something else. They're compliant on everything. And then you basically have an elite controlling the drones. And if then you can move away and become an independent Scotland, headed by a one-party Marxist state with a very compliant, unquestioning population, it would have made her Queen Nick of Scotland, and there would have been no one to stand up and say anything else. That was always the plan. Anyway, Murdo Fraser went on. He said, we are dealing with a virus that we know poses a real risk to health and life. Anybody who is trotting out political or constitutional arguments is in the wrong place completely and has found themselves completely lost. He said, this damning memo proves the SNP ignored tragedy to further their separation obsession and then belittled journalists who cottoned on to that. One advantage of the former five First Minister's almost daily COVID briefings is that the SNP's dishonesty can now almost be pinpointed to the minute. And in the weeks and months ahead, there will almost certainly be more scandal to come. And I think he's absolutely right. It is scandalous. It is cynical. It's an abuse of power. And she, by her acts and lack of action, by the political decisions she's made, and by the very core of her belief system and everything that she aimed at, the entire policy, undoubtedly led to the deaths of people in pursuit of her independence obsession. She needs to sit in a jail cell for a very long time. I'm coming up. What can we see in conclusion from these revelations and these obvious truths is that Nicola Sturgeon is not fit for office. She was never fit for office. Her push was never based on the well-being of the people. She treated the people with contempt. They were there simply to elevate her into this position of authority wherein she could then force, hopefully in her idea, an independent Scotland, and then set herself up as president of that Scotland. And it wouldn't have been too long before it became president for life in a one-party Marxist monolithic state where the party owned the government, the party owned the executive, the party owned the legislature, and the party owned the judiciary. It would have been North Korea in the north of Britain. Thank heavens it's never going to happen. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit that subscribe button. We're getting very close to 10,000 now. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and always reject the extremist Marxist state that the SNP want to push. Goodbye.